Hey there, welcome to Blockhead, the podcast where cartoonists talk comics and just about everything else. My name is Jeff Grogan, and I'll be your host for the next hour or so in a series of conversations with comics creators about their lives, their work, and comics. So sit back and enjoy. Hey there, Blockhead listeners. Welcome to our bookend episode of Gene Kannenberg's visit to Blockhead to talk about the comics world at Northwestern University and his work as research assistant, media and research assistant at Northwestern University in the Herskovitz Library of African Studies. He talks about that in part one. In this part of our discussion, he focuses in on his work in making books, his work as an artist, how a course in bookmaking changed his life, or bookbinding rather, because he doesn't take bets, but how that changed his life and how it led to this wonderful new volume called Here Comes Charlie Brown, a Peanuts pop-up book from Abrams, out, as a matter of fact, I believe it's today, March 26th. So be looking for that. This is how it all came to be. So you want to know more about this book, you're thinking about buying it, this is going to tell you. This will sell it to you, I'm telling you. So this is a really interesting discussion because it really does, it talks about some really fundamental aspects of bookbinding and pop-up books, so which I think is fascinating. Really interesting trying to figure out how to make a pop-up book. Because, we think about books as art objects. A pop-up book really exploits that, right? It really brings it to the fore, the idea of a book as object. And Gene is really not only, an expert at making them, he's also an aficionado, a fan of pop-up books, and introduces all of us, I think, to a wonderful world of pop-up books that you may, like myself, may not have even been aware of. So this is fun. This is great. I really enjoyed this discussion with Gene. I learned so much listening to him talk about his work, both at Northwestern and on the Peanuts book. And I really hope that you enjoy this episode and that you head right over wherever you buy your books and pick up Here Comes Charlie Brown from Abrams, a Peanuts pop-up book. It is available, I believe, wherever good books are sold, and you can find it on Abrams' website, you can find it at Amazon, you can find it at Barnes & Noble, you can find it probably at your local bookstore, your local independent bookstore, wherever you buy your books. Look for Here Comes Charlie Brown, a Peanuts pop-up book created by Gene Kannenberg. So, yeah, I love my copy. I'm so happy I've got it, and I know you'll enjoy yours too. It's a wonderful addition to any Peanuts collection. So let's get to it. Without further ado, Gene Kannenberg talks Peanuts. I'll see you on the other end.
But at this point, I've got so many other interests that that book will never happen.
Well, yeah, and among those is making comics of your own.
Yeah, that happened because when I moved here to this job, I didn't really know anybody at first, and I made a New Year's resolution. I was at a party, and somebody said, "Do you make? What's your New Year's resolution?" And I said, "I don't make them because I never keep them, but I really wish I drew more." Mm-hmm. And I went home. And that day I drew a really, really sloppy comic that was abstract because I had been experimenting a little bit with that the year before. And I was like, you know what, maybe I should do one of these every day, which was dumb because I never follow through on anything. But I put it on Facebook.
Right.
And people said, oh, that's kind of cool. You should do more of those. And if I would not have done that and had the dopamine hit of the likes,
sure, yeah,
I would have stopped within 3 or 4 days. But that's what kept me going. Mm-hmm. And by the end of the year, things looked very different than that first one. That first one was a bunch of unrelated pen strokes, brush pen strokes.
Sure.
That just vaguely looked like panels.
Hmm.
But by the end of the year, I was really thinking about layout and balance and stuff like this in ways that I hadn't at the very first. Because after about a week, I was like, you know what? You studied comics for 20 years. Why don't you start thinking about applying all that stuff that you thought about in all these other cartoonists and try to do some of that stuff yourself rather than just draw boxes and fiddle around.
Had you always drawn?
I drew a lot when I was a little kid, but I didn't follow through on it much after like middle school. My brother became a much, my brother's 3 years younger than me, and he became a much better artist than I was very quickly.
Hmm.
It kind of became clear that I was never going to be as good as he was,
Hmm.
especially because he was younger and already like I I could because I like taught him perspective early on, and then he just took off and he was crazy, and I was like, well, I like science. Turned out that I turned when I got to college, I realized that what I love is reading about science.
Oh, I see.
I can't do science. I love reading about science, but I
Uh-huh.
don't do science really
Uh-huh.
well.
I understand. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so that
Well,
that's when the English major came in.
and did your brother become an artist?
He became an artist. He got his BA in drawing and painting,
Uh-huh.
and he got an MFA, and I was got a PhD in sound studies.
Oh, fascinating. Interesting. It's all art, but one thing
Yeah,
leads to another sometimes.
yeah.
Um, so did you find that intimidating that he was doing so well and eclipsing you in that regard?
A little bit, but also I had my own stuff. I mean, I was thinky. I was always really good in school until college. Uh, losing a scholarship will change your idea of yourself real quickly.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, sure. Wow. That.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, college, a lot of times you think about it. I mean, you teach, I teach. Young people are still young people, right? And you make
yeah.
a lot of mistakes, and there's a lot of you get your priorities all messed up. I had a kid in for registration the other day, and he really wants to go into digital art. He really wants to focus on digital art and digital practice and all that kind of stuff. It's great, wonderful. There's a great class on Friday, that's going to expand your territory. It's more than just a beginning class. It's a intermediate level class, and it starts delving into all different, aspects, audio, visual, etc., of digital art. Sounds like it would be perfect for you. Fridays, I don't want to go Fridays, and it's like,
Oh God.
you know,
Oh,
you know what I mean? It's like, no, come on. You're paying for the class, first of all, right? You're paying to be educated. You can
yeah,
hang out with your friends. You could take Monday off, right? I mean, you got Saturday and
yeah,
Sunday, it's a morning class for gosh sakes. You'll have the whole afternoon, but priorities are different when you're 19 and
yeah,
20, so things
yeah.
happen,
Well,
right?
classes are rough. I mean, one of my biggest challenges was I went back to school while I was since I've been working.
Hmm.
I went back
Oh,
to school for my library degree.
I see. Okay.
And that was a hard thing to do after getting a PhD and teaching, and then deciding that teaching wasn't for me, and
Okay.
then working in the library for a while. I was like, can I really do this? Can I
Hmm.
really go back to being a student again?
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
It was a hard thing. But what I realized was that I could do it slowly.
Hmm.
Um, the library at the time was doing tuition remission as long as it was related to your job. So a library degree,
Right.
as long as I was doing getting good enough grades, uh, they would repay me after every
Oh,
semester.
fantastic. That's great.
So it was free. And so I realized all those courses that I always wanted to take but never did because I was trying to be the right kind of student.
Uh-huh.
Now I'm going to be the me kind of student.
Uh-huh. Good for you. Yeah.
So I'm going to take Introduction to Artist Books. I'm going
Hmm.
to take print history. I'm
Right.
going to take, I took a copyright class. I took a bunch of different things. I took a lot of print history kind of stuff
Oh,
because I was really, really interested in I've really become interested in books as objects
Yes.
and just print history itself. And the most important class that I took was book introduction to bookbinding.
Yeah.
It was all the class was all on the whole program was online. So
Mhm.
doing bookbinding online is kind of an interesting
Yeah.
kind of interesting
Yeah.
thing. He pre-recorded all the
Sure.
lectures and things like this,
Hmm.
and then you work on the books during the week. You take pictures of them and send them to him, and then twice during the semester you box everything up and send it to him.
Wow. Okay.
And that uh, and that's what basically changed my life.
Sure. It sounded, I mean, obviously we have, this as
Yeah,
a,
the book would not exist without that class.
yeah,
That's what
incredible.
that's what really did it for me.
So, what was it that got you interested in that? Because, I love books as objects too. I guess this is one of the wonderful things about I guess I would say in a lot of ways, the last 30 years is kind of like a renaissance in the printing of comics and what do we call it? I don't know. It's the archiving of comics in these beautiful books that comics are receiving this treatment now that they never received when you and I were kids. We never thought this was going to
Yeah,
and Fantagraphics and Drawn and Quarterly and people like that, who have the wherewithal and the budget, whatever, or sometimes scrounge the budget wherever they get it. But book designers who came together to make these beautiful volumes that are really unaffordable to anybody but a library, really, a lot of times. But
sometimes, yeah,
incredible, just incredible, beautiful works of art that not only that show off the comics to how they need to be seen, how they should be, it's given the kind of respect that they deserve and never
yeah,
received when we were growing up. And so we have these wonderful collections and beautiful art objects, really. Is that what spurred your interest in the idea of the book as an object, or was it other things as well?
it was other things as well. Just I was a medievalist
Oh,
also,
oh my gosh. Okay.
and
Yeah,
so
sure.
medieval manuscripts.
Hmm.
Uh, got really into those for a while. My dissertation was going to be on illuminated medieval manuscripts
Oh,
for a while
fantastic. Yeah, beautiful.
and I realized I was basically trying to write a comics dissertation without writing a comics dissertation, and
Where it
eventually
all goes
I
back to
moved over.
comics. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it kind of does, but
You sound so fatalistic.
yeah, well, it all comes back.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, yeah, because like again, Peanuts is like one of the first things I remember reading.
sure.
I
Yeah.
mean, because reading in the newspaper
Hmm.
before I was reading comic books, I was reading comic strips
Hmm. Hmm.
because of those ancient things called newspapers.
Yeah, right. Long
And then
ago.
like yeah, and then like the Scholastic book news
Mhm.
that you would
Oh,
get every month.
yeah.
And my brother would always buy the Peanuts collections.
Uh-huh.
He bought every single one of those.
You mean the Fawcett books or Peanuts
Yeah, the
Treasury?
Fawcett ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Those
So
those floated around my neighborhood.
they just floated between my brother and me constantly.
Yeah.
I just read the hell out of those things over and over.
Well, they always ended up one way or another in my house and those Fawcett paperbacks, but I don't remember ever buying one because I was too young. I was the oldest in my family and I was still too young in the 60s to buy those books for myself. My mother bought me other, Peanuts Treasury and Peanuts Classics and things like that, but because she was a fan, albeit it was kind of like the kind of thing she kept to herself, but she was always making references like she did as the 80s wore on and Schultz began focusing on Marcy and Peppermint Patty. She would say things like "You're weird, sir" and stuff like that, and I never made the
Nice.
connection at the time, but later on, I realized, and so all these books came from my mom. But what was really cool in my neighborhood in the 60s was there would be like books like that would travel through the neighborhood. Like one kid would have them and they'd pass them along to another kid and pass them along to another kid. And so you didn't own it in a sense. It just came from somebody's brother, and then went to somebody else. So we all kind of shared them. But Peanuts was those little paperbacks. which are reviled now by people who who design books, nevertheless made a big impact, I think, on all of us.
I think somewhere back in storage back in Albany, New York still. I think I've still got all my brother's Scholastic Peanuts books.
Oh, fantastic.
I'm filling in. I've got almost all of the original faucets now. Uh,
Great.
yeah, and I managed to get. I'm staring at it right now. The full Fantagraphics complete Peanuts
Me too.
and the Sundays, the Peanuts every Sunday also,
Yeah, I don't
which
have all of those. I have them up to the end of the 70s, I think.
yeah, those what I realized about reading the Sunday books
Hmm.
is that you can see, especially like the first one, especially the first one or two volumes,
Hmm.
you can see the progression of his art and his ideas so much more quickly.
Yes, that's probably true. Yeah, I would think so.
It's it was just kind of a fascinating to see it that way.
Yeah, that is
Uh, and
interesting.
and also just the fact that all those the original paperbacks were not they never published everything,
Hmm.
and they kind of took things from several years and threw them all together.
Yeah.
So the Fantagraphics books were interesting to finally see everything all at once, or to not see everything all at once, but see everything in order finally, so you can really
Yeah.
see the different progressions and the dead ends and stuff like that,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
kind of got left out because like this very first strip isn't was never in the original Peanuts books.
No. Pardon me while I let my cat out of the. There you go, Bets.
Cats will do that.
Yeah. She was here for a while. I think she got overheated or something. Um, yeah. So she had to leave, or maybe she got hungry. That's the only thing that keeps that door closed is this little piece of string. This is a very high-tech operation. So
Oh yeah.
so anyway, uh so yeah, I think that's one of the wonderful things. That whole endeavor from Fantagraphics, I think has done such a service, to people who love Charles Schultz and to revere his work. And I mean, it was never had never been done before, and it's just an incredible project. And as a librarian, you must really appreciate
Oh
that,
God.
you know. Uh,
Yeah.
I
No,
mean, the
it's my
endeavors,
yeah.
you know.
It, it doesn't help my own library because it takes up so much damn space. But
It's oh, I love it. I have it on my bookshelf too, and I have, the complete. As a matter of fact, I thought we'd end up talking about Peanuts, so I brought a couple of
yeah.
those up. But I have the whole collection also, which is my pride and joy, really, of my collection. And you've seen my little animated film, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, I couldn't have done it without these books. I mean, I couldn't have, because the album that I based it on, which you probably remember with Kay Ballard and Arthur Siegel, it again, that was another one of those things in the neighborhood when I was a kid. I always found it as a kid a really strange record because it had all these weird sounds in it, but it stayed with me, and so. Anyway, going through that album, listening to it, which is all from Lucy's point of view because Kay Ballard was the star, there was no way never would have been able to find the images that were referenced without Fantagraphics' complete collection.
Hmm.
Um, Otherwise, because some of them were,
God bless the index.
yeah, right. I know, man. It's fantastic because otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to do it. So, because a lot of those
Yeah.
strips were obscure. So,
Yeah.
uh,
And help me figure out when Shermie and when Patty
mhm.
finally left the strip too,
Yeah.
because not that it wound up in the because there's an essay in the back of the book also, and I don't think I wound up actually putting in the end dates for those characters, but I wanted to know how long they actually stuck around
Yeah.
because they don't last forever.
No. There's Patty and Violet. And do both of them leave at the same time, Patty and Violet?
Uh, well,
Just-
Patty Shermie leaves first.
Yeah.
I think Patty sticks around a little longer. I think Patty and Peppermint Patty overlap just a tiny bit, but
Mm.
really don't need two Patties.
Yeah, Peppermint Patty comes along in what, 67 or 68, maybe earlier.
I think a little earlier than that. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's I don't have an encyclopedic memory on
Mm.
I've
I,
never
me
been good
neither.
with dates, but
Oh, come on, Gene. Me neither. I don't either. I suppose if it's easy to find out if we Google it, but yeah, Patty and Vi. It's interesting to think about. Peppermint Patty is a very distinct character unto herself. Very, her personality is right from the start. It's unique. And Patty, the original Patty, and Violet are kind of weaker versions of Lucy in a way. They're
yeah,
you know they're
yeah, and Shermie also is just kind of there.
yeah. He's just kind of there. As he said, I'm always a shepherd. Right? Is what he says in the Christmas special. I'm showing off my Peanuts nerdness now. Um, yeah, no, but I always liked Shermie, and and I guess it was because Shermie seemed like a little bit older than Charlie Brown, and he was never quite as cruel as some of the other kids were. He is in that first strip, but it's funny later on. Shermie's not such a bad guy. He's not Linus, but he's not such a bad guy. Uh,
Yeah,
in Peanuts, the girls tend to be at least in the first portion of the strip, the female characters tend to be the most dismissive, the most cruel to Charlie Brown. Um,
yeah. It, it's in the beginning. It's more. It seems like more he's going for the gag rather
yes,
than the personalities so
yes,
much.
yeah, yeah,
And it's more the setup for the gag. But that turns pretty quickly. But
yeah.
at first, it's because Charlie Brown gives as good as he gets, I think,
Well, in
for a
those first couple of
while.
years, yeah, yeah, he does.
Yeah.
You point that out in the essay in the back of the book here. But looking at this, who starts off a comic strip introducing the main character and then somebody says they hate him? I mean, who starts off a comic strip that way?
Yeah, and also like who starts off a character comic strip with your main character? Panel one, he's super tiny.
Yeah, he's
Panel two, okay, he's big,
yep.
and then he disappears.
Yeah.
He's just gone. He's only in half of the first strip.
Yeah, I
He's
know.
only in half the first strip, but it makes the gag work.
Yeah, of course.
If he was there in three panels, the gag doesn't work nearly as well. You need that beat.
Yes, you do. You do.
You need that third beat.
Well, now, it's interesting you mentioned that. You talk about the beat, and I always felt I liked Peanuts best when there were four beats, four panels. I think Schultz had a real knack for setting up the four-panel gag. I never enjoyed the three-panel gags as much. Now, that's, of course, three panels became later when strips became even smaller in the newspaper. So he was forced to do that. I always felt like it was slightly, and I know I'm venturing into critical territory here, and I hate to do that because I revere everything he did. But that being said, I always felt he had such a natural feeling for that one, two, three, four, one, two, three, four. There's a musicality to it. There's a
Oh
musicality to
yeah,
telling a joke, you know. And Schultz
yeah,
had this, his timing was naturally attuned to the 4/4 beat kind of thing.
yeah. Although I've noticed reading some of the later ones that he does modify the way his jokes work for the threes too.
Sure, you have to.
He modifies that, but the reason again that this book exists is because I made this other one
Oh, I see that.
after the book after the class that I took
Hmm.
because I for my final project was I made a Steve Ditko homage.
Oh,
My final project was a Steve Ditko book.
okay,
Uh,
Gene. Now you're. I've got to see this. Okay. All
okay.
right. Can you want to open them up, man? I want
Yeah.
to see these.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Okay. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to
I
do an
love that.
homage to Steve Ditko, but I wanted to do Steve Ditko's environments. I wanted to look at just the mystical environments.
I love it.
So
I
we've got
love it.
this little
Well,
book
that
here.
cover, I was just going to say before you even open up the book, anybody who knows Ditko knows, as soon as you see that, it's Ditko. And
Yeah.
there's something about his line, the way it tapers and curves, it's so indicative of Ditko's sensibility. I mean, it's just Ditko, right? And you can tell right.
Yeah.
And I love that graphic, man. That's beautiful. It's
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
simple,
Yeah,
but so,
the,
evocative.
the way these covers work, it's a piece of cardboard.
Hmm.
It's a piece of board wrapped this way, and then
Hmm.
another one wrapped this way. And I realized, well, if I cut through on the one that wraps to the top, it shows the other one on the bottom, so I can do
Hmm.
that. So what I did was I took
Oh, look at this. Oh, I love it. I gotta have this. This is great. Oh my
and
gosh. I'm like, in ecstasy right now. This is fantastic.
and that
Oh
and that
man. Wow.
and what I had to teach myself how to do was to make these pop up these pop up
They're like,
the caption boxes.
yeah, how do you, I mean, I can't even imagine how this is done. Oh, I see. Okay. So each, okay. Wow.
So yeah, so each one of these is three. This
Three.
is what's known as it's what's known as a carousel book,
Okay.
basically. But I added the pop-ups. I had to get a book out of the library to teach me how to make pop-ups
Oh my gosh.
because we didn't learn how to make pop-ups in the class.
No, you learn. So, wow,
So
oh, look at
and then
this.
the whole book does this.
Wow, man.
And
Oh,
basically, what I had to do,
incredible.
the last two panels are one panel that I had to cut in half
I see.
to do that. But
Hmm.
so I did that, and like everything is like the things have to be the layers have to be hand sewn together
Oh,
and things like
interesting.
this.
Uh-huh.
Because like what that's based on is a book like this, which is
Okay.
this is what it would look like with no color or anything like that. It's just three different layers
Uh-huh.
as you go through.
Oh,
So that was my final project, and I was like, and he liked that. He liked that a lot. He liked that.
sure.
He liked that in the best possible way. Put it
You
that way.
got an A.
So like I got an A plus.
Oh, good for you, man. That's
So
excellent.
I was, and like
Well worth.
the captions because I was still doing my other comics at the time where I was doing asemic text where I was writing things that look like text but don't actually mean anything.
Oh, okay.
So I wanted it to look
I've
kind of
always loved
like
stuff like that.
I wanted this book to look kind of like that. So what I did was I found in an earlier issue a panel where Doctor Strange is reading a mystic scroll, and the mystic scroll has all these glyphs on it. So I took that scroll, I took all those glyphs, I scanned them all, and then I made these two two quick. I made these two quick caption boxes, and then I just threw these glyphs on all of them.
Oh, okay.
And then for the last one, I kind of made the red glyphs arc kind of like the arc down there.
Hmm.
They kind of do that. That was my like
Hmm.
that's what was my arty thing. But then I but then after I made that, I just couldn't stop thinking about it.
Hmm.
And then I had this idea. The first peanut strip would work perfectly. Actually, any peanut strip up through what 1986 or 83 would work because the panels are all the same size.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Because the only way these books work is if everything is the same size. So then I made this one. I made this just for the hell of it.
Yeah.
So I did.
Ah, cool. I
And what I was able to do with this one that I couldn't do with that one because I didn't have the time. What I really wanted to do with that with the Ditko one was to get rid of everything under each layer that was in the top layer. I wanted to get rid of the stuff. I didn't do that on that one. It was too much. It was too much work. But for this one, I was able to do it. So I
Mhm.
could just do that. So it's basically the same thing.
Yes. Great. Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah.
And this one also opens up.
Yeah, nice.
And for both of those, I put the videos online.
Uh-huh.
And for they kind of went mini viral, which
Mm.
for me is like 5,000 views.
Oh, wow, that's great though. Yeah.
But yeah, it was like, wow. The Daily Cartoonist picked up the Charlie Brown one and said, Peanuts needs to publish this. And so then I screen capped that.
Hmm.
A friend of mine told me about it. I screen capped that. And then I posted that. And then within 2 days, I had two publishers contact me.
Oh my gosh.
it was nuts. Excuse me.
Fantastic. That's so cool. What a great story.
And one of them, Abrams, before they contacted me, they contacted Peanuts Worldwide, and Peanuts Worldwide said, "Yeah, we want to do it with you, Abrams." So that's how the book happened. But again, the reason why the first one happened was because the idea came in my head, and the only way it would get out of my head was through my hands.
Sure. Yeah. That's the
It
way
was
it
one of those
works.
things.
Yeah.
It was one of those things that, and so this is a complete accident. It's a
It's what a
complete
happy accident,
accident.
though.
It's a happy accident. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a beautiful accident. I absolutely love it.
I got really lucky. The book designer, Sean Dahl, she did this amazing job because again, it's got this extra
Yeah.
hardcover.
I love it. Yep. And we have this little interior. Yeah.
So it's got three hardcovers. So and that means that it has a regular spine, and then it's got the Charlie Brown spine.
Yep.
That's gorgeous. And again, I can take no credit for how cool the book looks on the outside.
Mm. That was
Because
somebody else.
Chip Kidd designed the cover,
Oh,
Sean Dahl designed
you got the best.
the actual the actual bookness of it.
Okay.
So it's like in publishing terms, this is like this is a team thing.
And yeah, a team thing that you originated. So did they use your maquette then as the, I mean, how is this constructed? I'm wondering how it goes from your maquette to being this mass-produced book.
Yeah, that was a long process
Yeah.
involving Chinese New Year and then COVID.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Uh, because this all starts just before COVID. Um, so they sent my book to the printer in China to get a workup of how much they thought it would cost,
They sent
how much they thought.
your little pamphlet. Okay.
Yeah, it's like, please don't lose it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, but it got there just before the start of Chinese New Year, so everything shuts down for a month. Okay,
Okay.
and then right after Chinese New Year, COVID hits,
Yeah. Yeah.
so everything shuts down basically for a year,
Yeah.
practically. But after all that, blah 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 blah, they work up a model of what they think the book is going to be like, and then I have to learn how to color with dots. But the book this company called Retro Supply
Yeah, I work with their
does.
stuff too. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're fantastic.
Fantastic. Love them. Yep.
Yeah, and they're very reasonable when you need to get a professional license because up to like 500 copies, you don't need your standard license when you buy something, it covers you.
Uh-huh.
But this was going to be more than 500 copies. So you had to get the professional license. But they were super cool about the whole thing.
Hmm.
I can't say enough good things about them. I just had to learn how to do all the different stuff. So and I had some health things. My parents had some health things doing out. So a lot of everything took a lot longer than it was going to. But basically, uh, we had to figure out the right size of it. So I scaled everything up, and I did all the coloring myself. Then we
Hmm.
had to figure out how to do the cut lines, and so I had to actually thicken all of Schultz's lines on one side so that for the cut, so that we wouldn't get any white around it.
Right.
They didn't want any white like that.
Sure.
Um, and then it got brought. It actually got expanded a little bit even after I was done with the whole thing. But that means that the next book, because this is a series,
Oh, you're doing a series. Wow.
yeah, which is yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
Talk
Incredible.
about happy accidents. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next ones will be even easier because now we've figured out all the dimensions and things like that. So basically, so just, the coloring is all me. So basically, I just give them the files. Yeah, I give them the CMYK files, and then everything gets printed and then it gets hand put together because the pops, at least, there's no way a machine can do that. There's only two pops, but because of the way that they're put together, there's
When you mean pop,
I mean,
you're talking
yeah,
about the
yeah,
balloon
the thing
at
that
the
actually
end.
pops up. Yeah, yeah. There's no way that that can be
That has
done by a machine. Those are always done by hand.
so
So
it's taped in by
any
hand.
pop-up book is
Wow.
is popped in by hand. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I'm
Incredible.
not sure exactly how the layers themselves get done,
Hmm.
but I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of it is done. Another thing that Sean did that was really nice on the book, like as you hold it, there's that little crease that runs down the side
Yes.
of each page like that
Yes.
to help it. So because like on the original, on the ones that I do, like it
It opens
opens,
up.
it's open all the way to the very
Yeah, yeah.
edge there.
Right.
This holds it together, so it's a really sturdy thing.
Yes, it feels sturdy. Yeah.
Yeah, they just did such a good job with it. I'm so happy with it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It really is in so many it's just gorgeous. And it does feel like an object that will hold.
And
Just
I also feel like if you are Ignatz and you see crazy, this is your brick.
yeah.
You can you
Yeah,
can
yeah, right.
you can just whack this.
So you're saying that there's this is a series. How many of them are there going to be?
I Well, that's a good question. I suppose part of it depends on how well they sell,
Hmm.
but we already know the next two.
Okay.
We
You chose work
we
them out already?
we know what they are. We know what the strips are.
Oh, okay.
We haven't made them. They haven't been made yet.
Are they from later on in the
They kind of have to be because again, let's put it this way: we're not making a Shermy book.
Now that would
No,
be
no,
something.
no one's gonna buy a Shermy book.
Oh,
And
geez,
like
I might.
you well,
I would be
ma-
interested in that. That would be something to see, a Shermy book.
well, if we make it up to like 40 or 50 books, maybe we can get a Shermy out of there. But like you can't do the first Linus because
Yeah.
or the first Lucy because they start off as number one, they start off as babies.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so they're not really recognizable. And the first Linus, he's nailed. He's sitting there nailed so he can sit up.
Oh, yeah,
It
yeah.
looks really cruel. It looks really cruel.
Somehow in the 50s it didn't seem quite so.
Yeah, but
World was
now
a
it looks a
different
little
place.
cruel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also we need to balance because this one's pretty dark.
Yeah.
I guess when Charlie the editor was pitching this, they were like, "Does it have to be this strip? This is really dark."
Yeah.
And he's
Well,
like, "Man, you don't understand. This is where it all comes from."
yeah, yeah. What I have to say about that is so much of the merchandise from Peanuts is this sentimental stuff, like love is, happiness is a warm puppy, that kind of
Yeah.
thing, which I always felt was sort of incidental to the strip, that the strip was a much thornier
Oh
world
yeah. Oh no.
than that merchandise ever portrayed.
Yeah. No. When I was a kid, like the strips that I remember, like there's one where Charlie Brown, I think he's talking to Lucy. I'm not sure if this is one where she's in the psychiatrist booth or not, but he's saying that he wants to run away and go live somewhere else
Mm.
where
Hmm.
people don't know that he's Charlie Brown and he can be a different person. She's like, "You're always going to be Charlie Brown. It doesn't matter. You're still you. That's not going to
Hmm.
change."
Right.
And as a kid, I was like, because I identified a lot with Charlie Brown. I was like, wow, that's rough. That's a rough thing to hear when you're that young.
You're always going to be you.
Doesn't You're always going to be you?
Yeah.
Damn. Or just the feeling of like, or another one that I liked. It wasn't. It isn't as sad, but just like the one where they're lying on their backs looking at the clouds, and Linus is pointing out the
Oh
looks like the
yeah,
Apostle Paul over there
I
to the
love that.
side,
Yeah.
and Charlie says, "I was gonna say I saw a ducky and a horsey, but I changed my mind."
Yeah, I love that one. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, I
that
love that
that
story.
that that one's just hilarious, and it's
Oh,
just
it
this
is.
feeling of my childhood, my my own imagination is so inadequate.
Mm. I think there's part of everyone, I think, who identifies with Charlie Brown, that we've all been trod upon, at one point or another, and we all
Oh
feel
yeah.
insecure at times, and there's always the unattainable dream, whether it's winning a baseball game and I don't know, I had it's terrible. There's this memory I have, and I must have been 4 years old, maybe. I don't know, because I was just making friends in this new neighborhood we'd moved into. And I remember standing there and we were playing wiffle ball in one of my new friends' backyards, and I was waiting to bat. And of course, I'm only like 4 years old, right? So I don't know baseball. I don't know how to play wiffle. I've never done this before. I don't even know how to hold a bat. And of course, I strike out, and everybody's calling me Charlie Brown. Everybody was calling me Charlie Brown, and it was for a while there, as a matter of fact, they would, in other circumstances, I was still referred to as Charlie Brown. It didn't last more than, a little while, but it was long enough to scar me for, for a long time. I still have that memory. You know,
I don't have memory as much, but when I was very little, it took me a long time to really develop any hair on the top of my head.
uh-huh.
So I guess the first place or two that my parents lived, the neighbors would call me Charlie Brown
Okay. Mhm.
because I was just a little bald kid.
Well,
So mom
and
continued to call me Charlie Brown. Yeah, yeah.
you know, I
Full
don't know.
circle.
Full circle, exactly. No getting away from it, man. Oh, that's incredible. But I think we have that capacity, right, within us. And
Oh yeah. I was gonna say I don't think anybody if anybody really feels like they're 100% in control of themselves and 100% sure of themselves the whole time, they're a psychopath.
yeah,
I,
yeah, or
I think
sociopath. Yeah,
if you don't feel yeah, sociopath. If you don't feel a little Charlie Brown, I think there's something
yeah,
that I'm a little scared of.
yeah, yeah, I hear you. Well, um, I think also each of the characters, the iconic characters, there's a little bit of all of them in us, and I
Oh
think
yeah.
it's partly why we can relate and find Lucy's cruelty towards Charlie Brown. Well, sometimes we can find it very funny. And, part of that we take delight in it, or we take delight in Schultz's, wit, or Lucy's wit or whatever. But there are times when we can relate to that. There's times because we've all probably at one point or another been cruel and especially as children, right? Children,
Or she feels she's justified.
yeah, or she feels
She's justified. She and I've certainly felt justifiable anger in my
sure.
life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Damn
And
it, recognize me. I've
yeah,
got this right.
yeah, exactly. Or,
Why not?
Linus, I always, because I wore glasses, I always related to Linus and Linus's love. Linus's thoughtfulness was something that I was always attracted to, that was an
Oh
idea
yeah.
that I enjoyed because I loved reading and I loved learning when I was a kid. And always thought I always felt like Linus was the character I related to, the most, or the one where I found myself reflected the most was in Linus.
Lucky
Because
you. I would have liked to
yeah, Linus is a great character, and but his insecurities there too. He's walking around with this blanket,
have. Oh
his
yeah.
wife, and he professes security, he professes a certain kind of authority in his thoughtfulness, but underlying it all, he's got to hold on to something, otherwise, that makes him feel safe. Otherwise, he's lost, and that's not so far from Charlie Brown, you know.
True. Yeah. No, it's all good. And
Yeah.
Marsh I like Marcy a lot too because she's got she's she's a follower, but she also has a brain of her own.
Oh yeah.
She's
Yeah.
she's she's a lot more independent than she lets on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think in her followerness, she's also leading a lot of the time.
Yeah, that's an interesting relationship. Marcy and Peppermint Patty, leader follower. She's sort of like what the if he is the king, there, she's the characters I'm
She's
forgetting.
not exactly Iago, but
Yeah, exactly, not exactly. But yeah, it's that kind of relationship. And she is at the same time she recognizes Peppermint Patty's foibles and frailty,
yeah.
uh, and still goes along, still follows along. I suppose because she finds the trip interesting. That's a reason.
This is backcountry, Marcy.
Do you have any idea? Well, the book has just come out, right? Just came out.
It comes out on Tuesday.
On Tuesday. Comes out on Tuesday. So I'm wishing you, the most success with this. And I hope that listeners will search this out because this is a wonderful, wonderful item for anybody who is a Peanuts fan. It's a wonderful addition to your
Thank you.
collection. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's such a tribute, really. Beautiful too. So Gene, there must be then a career in pop-up books for you. I mean, aside from doing more Peanuts work, is that Ditko book ever going to see the light of day in published form, or other books? Do you have other ideas?
I've 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 got I've had thoughts. I don't
Hmm.
know about the Ditko book. That would well Abrams works with Marvel. I don't know. I should show it to Charlie. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it has
Well, Peanuts.
quite the thing. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it's
Peanuts is a thing.
yeah, yeah. Uh,
But I'm certainly I've started working on some other things. I've started working on I did a quick thing to try to take something that looks like one of my comics panels and make it a pop-up, which is nuts.
yeah, yeah, because your abstract comics are.
Yeah, so I did this thing of just like all interlocking forms
Oh, that
that
would be interesting. Yeah.
just looks like that looks like one of my panels.
Hmm.
And but I did it real quick. I've got a bunch of how-to books that I need to deal with more because I've got a huge pop-up book library myself. I love pop-up books.
Oh, yeah, they're fun.
Yeah, I have so many of them. But I need to work more. That's one of my goals this weekend is to just try to make a couple
Hmm.
small things just to
Hmm.
work on some other ideas. Because yeah,
Uh-huh.
I would love to do more pop-uppy things. Because this Peanuts thing, it's again, there's only two real pops in it, but it's the depth I think that really is
Oh,
what I was
yeah.
really trying to do with this book is trying to show that with just a few lines, Schultz is creating this world.
Yes.
So with the three layers in each panel, you're getting this kind of depth. And
Yeah.
that's one of the choices with choosing other strips too. You've got to have at least two characters going usually
Right.
because you need enough elements to be able to show these layers of depth
Right.
also.
Right. And that's what makes a pop-up book interesting is the idea of depth. That
Yeah.
what was flat and two-dimensional has opened up and that space is opened up, it's telescoped.
Yeah. Yeah, my favorite 3D movies are the ones that play with depth more so than the ones that jump out at you.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. And I think that's what is it? It really is fundamental to our experience of pop-up books. The idea that the frame that's here, is a window, right? And
Yeah, that's
we,
that's really what I'm doing.
yeah, it's a window that we see into, right? And then when what's exciting is that moment, where something pops out of that window, and it's
Yeah.
reality. And I can't get this. There it is. It's somewhere like that. Um,
Yeah.
and that's part of it's playing around with the idea of illusionistic space and making that illusionistic space tangible. Yeah.
Thank you. That's pretty much exactly what I was trying to do.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's wonderful. So the Ditko book gives you that opportunity too, because all those backgrounds are so illusionistic, so dimensional, and
Oh yeah, that's.
pushing
I mean,
pull.
and that's why I wanted no people in that book. I wanted no word balloons.
Yeah, yeah.
I just wanted to look at the way that Ditko is using and portraying space,
Beautiful book. Yeah,
spaces,
yeah, yeah. Because
and
that's
that story was the ultimate one to do it with.
sure. And his language, his visual language of those spaces has become so iconic. It's hard, it's derived in ways from surrealism, but then, he takes it and turns it into something else, and that's
Yeah, yeah.
so
His
much his.
his mysticism is tangible in a way that
Yeah,
other people try to make it ethereal.
yeah, yeah. Very much. Yeah, that's a good way of describing it. Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see though, where it really is a interesting thought to think about where you might go, how you might expand this, because you've had this success, and of course, because this is so expensive to produce, Peanuts is the kind of thing where the publisher's gonna recoup their investment. That's pretty clear. But because Peanuts merchandise is big time, but it would be interesting to see, where you might go next with your this idea, aside from not only playing with the space of your own work, and turning those into pop-ups, but also, thinking about, I'm just thinking about what a great, Crazy Cat would be great. You know, as a pop-up book, or, so many other interesting. It's funny, when I think of it, I was like, I don't think I'd like to see, Prince Valiant that way. I'm not sure. Foster, when you start thinking about representational, realistic,
Hmm.
naturalistic cartooning or illustration, somehow or another, that seems a little too, I don't know. They're so intent on creating the idea of space, this idea of minimalist space that you've taken and expanded. You've taken what's hinted at, and expanded it. That seems so much more fulfilling in a way.
Well, that's interesting. And
Well, something to
I
chew
hadn't thought.
over. I don't know if it
Yeah,
makes much sense upon
I hadn't
reflection.
thought of it that way.
But, there's something about the idea that, Schultz is implying space, and you've taken it and made it tangible. You're saying this is what, Schultz implies with very little line work, very little. It's just enough to create a whole world. Whereas, Hal Foster goes to these extreme lengths of detail, in creating that world. He does all the work for you. And so you
Yeah,
don't need to telescope it, because he does that in the illustration, I mean, he's a very sophisticated illustrator. His line weight is such and blah, blah, blah. There's all these aspects of his illustration that make it really do all that work in the illustration. Does it need to be a pop-up book? It probably doesn't. But or would that expand on the ideas that are implied in the artwork? This sort of, explodes the idea in the artwork, because it is all through implication rather than illustration or explication.
man, now you got me thinking. That's dangerous.
Well, it's I was just thinking of the next thing I could see you doing Seeger, I could see you doing Harriman. I could see you doing a variety.
Harriman would be a lot of fun.
Harriman would be a lot of fun, I think. Yeah. Uh, you know, and if Abrams, which is a really huge publisher, doesn't see the benefit of it, other smaller publishers may. I don't know, you know.
We'll see, but
Just
I
throwing
do,
it
I
out
do.
there, man.
Yeah, I know, but I do want to kind of think about some of my own stuff
Oh
too.
yeah, sure. Yep. Absolutely. Oh no, and that would be interesting too. Think about how when you talk about your abstract work and the complexity that's inherent and the ambiguity that's inherent in abstract work, how you might play with that. In a way, you start to do that in the Ditko book. And it's kind of a natural evolution in a way, to think of it that way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Getting ambiguous in 3D is
Yeah.
in intangible 3D is kind of a weird thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
like visual 3D, because I also love like 3D glasses type 3D
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
as opposed to pop-up 3D.
Yeah.
And you can do ambiguity visual 3D a lot easier than you can tangible 3D.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there are some books that do both.
Do you
Man,
have favorite
stop it, brain.
do you have favorite pop-up books? Before we close our interview, or do you have any favorite pop-up books that you
Oh,
might point people to?
uh, well, there's a lot. I have a sentimental attachment to Robert Sabuta's Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, okay.
Uh, just because it's one of the first when I really started to get into pop-up books, because it does so many cool things. It's one of the first that I saw where they were really going into doing multiple things on a single page. Like when Alice falls down the rabbit hole, you actually pull up uh, a
Oh,
little tiny like periscope thing to see her
uh,
fall down. And near the end when she says, "Oh, you're all a pack of cards," when you turn that page, it just kind of explodes
oh,
up.
wonderful. Wow.
I'm really waiting. There's a press called Proposition Press, which specializes in pop-up books. They did a Warhol book that was
Oh,
really
cool.
good, but their Keith Haring book is coming out anytime now. And I've
Uh-huh.
seen a mock-up of that, and that looks like it's going to be really, really incredible.
Oh, wow. What's the name of the company?
I Proposition Press.
Opposition Press. Okay. I'm gonna have to look
They've
that.
done they've done a lot of really, really cool stuff.
Oh, wonderful.
And they do greeting cards and stuff like that too. I've got a book that's all in Chinese. It's it opens out to about 8 feet long. It's the Hidden City, and it's just unbelievable.
Oh my gosh.
It's
Incredible.
yeah, because I've got other ones like Star Wars that opens up that represents all 9 movies, and it I don't have there's not even a table at work big enough to hold the whole thing.
You ought to do,
It's the size of a book,
uh-huh.
but
You ought to do
when you open
videos
it
of
up,
your collection, man. That would
oh
be so
man,
cool.
it's ridiculous. And I've got a handful of the Hallmark did some Peanuts
Hmm.
pop-up books in the 70s and things like
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
I've got some Tintin pop-up books.
Oh my gosh.
Don't I have so many outer
Oh,
space pop-up books.
please do a collection video. Just like 2 minutes. Okay, this is, the Alice in Wonderland book or Warhol book or whatever it is you have. It'd be so cool, man. Um,
The
you know.
Large Hadron Collider got the pop-up book.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah. Well, Gene, this has been great. Wonderful to talk to you and catch up again. And I'm so pleased. I love this book and I'm so pleased for you. I really am. It's such a wonderful, wonderful, happy event for everybody who's a Peanuts fan, and for Gene Kannenberg, who's such a wonderful guy. And
Thank you so much, Jeff.
yeah, it's great,
Really
man.
appreciate that.
Oh yeah, it's great. And I just love it. I hope it sells 1 million. I really do.
I
And
hope so too.
yeah, and I hope you go on to make a bunch more. I'm looking forward to all of them. So excellent. Well, Gene, I've got to run, so it's just been great. It's been wonderful to connect again.
Definitely. Great to connect with you again too.
Yeah. All right. Take care, man.
Thanks for the invite.
So that's our discussion with Gene Kannenberg. I hope you've enjoyed both sets of discussions. If you haven't, make sure you check out my discussion with Gene about the Herskovits Library of African Studies at Northwestern University and all about Northwestern and Northwestern's collection of comics, their collection of African ephemera and printed matter, and everything else under the sun. So be sure to head over, and if you haven't listened to it yet, you don't want to miss this discussion with Gene, right? This wonderful talk about all of the resources at Northwestern University that I did not know existed. I know Those of us who are familiar with the Billy Ireland Museum and know about Ohio State and Ohio State's great collection of comics, well, this is another great resource, Northwestern University. Be sure to listen to that, okay? Well, I hope you enjoyed this discussion, and I hope that you will go right out and pick up Here Comes Charlie Brown, a Peanuts pop-up, because it's a great book. It's a wonderful subject. Anybody who loves Peanuts, any family member who loves Peanuts, this is a wonderful addition to a Peanuts collection. It's a wonderful item to display on your coffee table or wherever else. The Peanuts pop-up book certainly belongs in that class. So head on over to wherever you get your books and get a copy of this today. You will not be disappointed. And it is sure to be a collector's item. It is going to be the first in a series. So that's wonderful news. And again, wonderful, wonderful talk with Gene. It was great to have him here. So, as I've said before, right now, if you join us on Patreon, join Blockhead at Patreon at patreon.com/Geoff Grogan. That's GeoffGrogan. Between now and June 1st, if you join at the paid level, you will receive a free copy, signed copy of my brand new, as I said, magnum opus, this great work of literature, comics literature, Donut and the Cheeseburger, Race for the White House 2024. It is a tabloid newspaper, full-color comics, 20 pages of full-color comics all about the politics of the day. And one of the most important elections of our lifetime, if not the most important election of our lifetime. So again, join us on Patreon at patreon.com/Geoff Grogan. Between now and June 1st at the paid level, receive a free copy of that, and it is limited, so do it now, do it quickly before they all run out, and then where will we be? So be sure to do that. You don't want to miss it. And who knows, I may throw something else in there, as an extra gift for your generosity and your support. That'll do it for now. My name's Geoff Grogan, and I'll be saying so long and see you later. I hope you will pop in again in a couple of weeks for our next episode. This time, right now, I've got a couple of people lined up, but I'm not sure who's coming up first. So you'll have to wait and see. It's a mystery guest, and look forward to that, okay? And I'll look forward to you joining us again next time on the next episode of Blockhead. So until then, be well, be safe, be happy, pick up your Peanuts pop-up book, and thanks for listening.